We just had a safety meeting with our first responders last week in Clermont County, where we had representatives from all townships. October will be Safety Awareness Month, so you'll start seeing things that will come home for that as well. Unfortunately, I don't have a certificate for the dog tonight. If I knew the dog was going to be here, I would have given that instead of Steve, but I'll go ahead and give that to you. So if I could have our SROs come forward, as we'd like to recognize you tonight. Our newest one is Chad Lusson. Come on up, Chad. Chad is at the high school. Thank you, thank you. Eric Gregory at the middle school. Michael Vestry at elementary. He is a crowd favorite. And Steve Sieper, who's at the high school along with. So like I said, these are our SROs for our district. We know safety is a top priority. Mike has been with us now for a year. Second, going into his second year. What can you tell us from that first year? What did you? Eye-opening. What was? It was eye-opening. Chad, this is your first year here at the high school. I guarantee the high school's eye-opening as well. And Eric's been with us, and Steve was with me ever since day one. And I can't tell you, having those guys right there with you, how safe you feel. And I think that we continue, we look at safety in this district, you'll probably start to see a few more of these guys, because we want to make sure safety is priority. We want to thank you guys, and thank you for representing all the first responders. Thank you. Patrol the streets now.
All right, item 4.01, our student voice.
Dr. Ray, student voice.
All right, well, Randy has this so that we're going to not use the mic, so I'm going to see if I can spot his voice. We'd like to welcome you here this evening, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tracy Ray, proud principal at West Clermont Middle School. And this part of the board meeting, every board meeting is the best because it's why we're all here, and that is our student voice presentation. So tonight, I'm very excited to turn this over to a great team. Dr. Jessica West, Associate Principal, had this great vision for a course called Expedition, and she made it come to life, and we brought Mrs. Ford along to teach that class. And then this evening we have Abby, Will, Trent, and Marissa, who are going to share with you all about this course. So, Dr. West.
Thank you. And tonight we're going to be sharing with you, or our students are going to be sharing with you, how the academic and life skills portion of our Portrait of a Graduate lives for them in their Expedition course. And so this past year, we were very excited to be able to bring gifted services back to the middle level grades in West Clermont. The last time we had gifted services was the 2010-2011 school year. We were able to do this by repurposing an elective teacher position and getting really creative with our master schedule so that we could bring Mrs. Rena Ford in as a gifted intervention specialist. We have 212 gifted students at the middle school, and 191 of those students are participating in our Expedition course. So our Expedition course is an elective course that is aligned with our Portrait of a Graduate that gives students hands-on activities and ways of solving real-world problems. Mrs. Ford and also Mr. Spangler, who's also in our audience, are also working with our ELA and our math teachers so that our gifted students can receive gifted services in their ELA and their math classes. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Ford.
Good evening. My name is Rena Ford, and I want to first of all just thank you for this opportunity that you have given us, not only to have this course come to life here at the middle school, but also just to thank you for allowing us to have something different for our gifted students here at the middle school. Of 31 years of my service here at West Clermont, I have to say that I have never been more excited about a program. I'm so proud just to be able to build this program with Mr. Spangler and Dr. West and our students. We have just hit the ground running very strong, and we have already just really had just an amazing first couple weeks of school. And the areas of focus for this class tonight, which our students will talk about, are creativity, leadership, engineering, communication, collaboration. Along with that is our teamwork, metacognition, so thinking about your own thinking, and critical thinking. All of these are so important to our 21st century learners, as well as those soft skills that we're going to have for our future-ready and career-ready students. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the heart of the Expedition program, which is our students. You will first hear from our 6th grade representatives, and then our 7th and 8th grade.
We are working on constructing a roller coaster strictly out of cardstock, paper, and tape. Roller coasters operate within principles of potential and kinetic energy. The car, the marble space, is raised to a certain height, giving a gravitational potential energy. Then it is released, and that potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. Then energy in motion.
Hi, my name is Karen Evans, and I'm in 6th grade. I will talk about the roller coaster project. In Expedition class, we are a roller coaster manufacturer competing for a bid to build a roller coaster for an amusement park. Our task is to design and build a paper model of the most fun and exciting roller coaster using only paper. The coaster must include at least one curve, loop, and hill. We must also include one other element of our own design, made strictly from paper. We are keeping a digital engineering journal to collect data about our coasters. When we are finished, we will then present our roller coaster to the amusement park manager, Ms. Ford, and a panel of roller coaster enthusiasts, fellow classmates, and explain the design to build of the roller coaster and why it is the most fun and exciting based on physics involved.
Hi, my name is Will Lyons, and I'm in 7th grade. Currently, our 7th and 8th grade expedition classes is learning about electronics through scientific investigations by working with snap circuits. We've learned about how much electronics play as an important part of our everyday lives. We have been able to distinguish the difference between series and a parallel circuit. My favorite part about this learning investigation so far has been having the power to make things fly and come to life. We've recently been given an extra battery component to make our circuits that now give us 6 volts of power instead of 3 volts. Ms. Ford reminds us that with great power comes great responsibility.
My name is Anna Cooper, and I'm in 8th grade. What I think most about the gifted program in this school is that it encourages things differently than in a regular classroom setting. It inspires me to be more creative and to have an opportunity to work with peers that are willing to challenge me in ways. I like the acceptance we have of each other in the expedition class, and I feel it gives me more confidence to not always have the correct answer or even just one right answer. It allows me to see more than once
Thank you.
All right. Item 5.01, superintendent's business.
If I can turn it on. I don't know how. Thought I did, but I was wrong.
Just throw it over here.
We know you guys probably have homework that you have to do, so we understand if you, as being studious, gifted children, we know that you have things to do tonight, a busy, probably dinner as well. So thank you so much for coming. You did a fabulous job. We appreciate it. I'll just speak really loudly. As part of our work session this evening, we are going to take our roadmap report, which Mr. Romano has pulled up on the webpage here. If you go under our story and click on roadmap report, you can see volume 1, 2, 3, and this is volume 4. I know that Mr. Gephardt shared it at the last board meeting, but we're going to go into more depth tonight with the board. So what you can do, you can pull it up on your phones if you want to look at it. Mr. Romano can flip through it. We have some extra copies here if anybody would like to look at it while you're sitting there. These are just drafts, so we just need those back because they're not final. But we're going to spend some time going more deeply by dividing up. Mrs. Brinkman will take a topic, Mr. Patton will take a topic, and Mr. Chumlin will take a topic. Then we're going to share in our discussion. So if you guys want to read through these while you're waiting for them to read, we're just going to have some discussion, and that will be the main part of our work session today. The roadmap report, just as a reminder for everybody, is the ongoing reporting out that we make about our engagement process. It lets people know where we are, where we're going, and what we're learning from listening to our stakeholders. And that's what we're all about. We're all about listening, we're all about acting, and we're all about planning for the future. And so that's what these roadmap reports are all about, so I encourage you to take a look at those. And I'll pass them out. So David's gonna, each person will walk you through what you guys need to do.
All right, so we're going to move on. Section A, yes. Student pathways and performance. No,
Thank you too.
no.
Where you guys started?
We're on 6, chapter 6.
I'm there. Page 39.
All right, so you were part of the CAC.
So a lot of this is the React surveys that we collected from parents, and so we're going to go through.
We went to the CAC,
exploration and academics and so top to
there,
down.
sent out an email.
Faculty with issues presented in the survey. Not a surprise that we did underscore the need for
You know
by
that.
parents and caregivers. That's
When they asked
the
about
situation.
from
We sent out from 200 surveys,
came out.
like 20% received an email or completed the survey. So it's
What
an
it
average of about 10.
and I think that
So what did the survey tell us?
when we look at,
It starts, I love his questions right here. So overall, how satisfied are you with the start here? So if you look at this, I always kind of draw that imaginary line where it goes from negative to positive, right? And so we're looking at 79% or at least positive, which is pretty good. You know, if you're thinking about this situation, we get 8,000
very situation.
But still, that was kind of a positive thing. It's about 79%, at least somewhat satisfied. We'd love to see the very satisfied higher. The next question is how effective is this memoirs with parents and students? So this surprised me. College around this, I thought we could win, but there's 47%.
Look at, it's on the mind. It's on the mind.
Military enlistment, that may be a little bit
Parents
higher.
or staff, and this goes really
Unless you've been in it or had
the
it,
data
or you don't know that much about it.
how satisfied. Obviously,
15% they don't.
100%.
And entrepreneurship, business
But
ownership.
when you look at
I thought
school
this right
safety
here
and
surprised me
security,
the most. Right.
we still have
I thought
people
you'd see more here thinking of
are
what you do, but
unsatisfied. It's not that
parents, they just don't know how much time we spend to
somewhat in the bottom.
Apparently for these areas.
You're looking at 70%. You're at 79%.
Does it say what the numbers stand for?
No, it doesn't go that specific.
So it's just general.
You know, when you take a survey, you know, it's going to be
The next, how I'm satisfied.
very satisfied.
For an educational
Something
program.
stuck out.
So this is really our
stood out to them, and then you would fall into this range. So you don't know what that would be. So I think the next deeper dive goes into, okay, so if you're not satisfied,
I would say,
that's the deeper dive.
he went so long now.
It's kind of safety. Chuck's going to talk a little bit about.
I first came in 2012.
These are some of the things that came out of safety during this year.
The stuff.
Just something to think about.
We went over that. Do you have any questions about what we've done? I think the next thing we're going to do though is, and you brought this up a couple years ago, is reunification and what C&E uses. We're going to go with that. I love you.
I love you guys.
Yeah.
We keep waiting for you guys to come up and visit us.
I want
so
to.
we can.
I want to schedule a visit. We talked to our safety consultant the other day from Hamilton County. He recommended it overwhelmingly. A lot of schools going there.
It is. It's phenomenal. It's a great system to use. Yes, you're more than welcome.
So I want to come down, me and maybe Randy, if you can free up time to go down here with you guys have done it, so I want to hear that.
And it would be a lot of Mr. Dorsey running as well. So I would be just sitting back.
No, but
We need to get
Mr. Dorsey
better at helping our parents understand
here, so
what other.
So Mr. Dorsey is now the assistant superintendent.
Kids have.
Okay. So he just got promoted. So he's the assistant superintendent.
Okay.
so I'll call him
We have to be able to play the art band course.
and
I'll be quite honest with you. I guess I'm a little bit biased, but we got it down there. We got a bus, cones, we got all those things. And I love you guys. Yeah. You got a bus donated to you.
he did.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's where we have all of our stuff. We got our Chromebooks, we got all of our cones, we got all of our stuff. We got a backup generator. We got it all. We're ready.
So when you look at this, so how do you guys publicize this? Is it something that you guys communicate with parents so they feel safer? How do you guys do this?
We do, yeah. They send out some publications to the community and stuff as well. And so also said we have a better turnout.
Yeah.
So
So if we go to this question,
My biggest question on that is,
how important is it to provide elementary and middle school students with basic age-appropriate exposure to different careers and information about the paths of study or skill development?
yeah, so he'll take a on a personal day or something. Always and we'll use the neighboring church just as a
Either we don't do it or we don't communicate.
He logistically did. I wasn't able to join it because I was out on my campus. We did a smaller scale with our pickup parents.
Just not.
They would pull up and he would say, he would give them a card and say, okay, you're checked, you're good. You know, your kids, you're not on the parent pickup permission slip. We need you to go over here and stand and wait.
We've got to get better as a district to push share that information.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, the I
So
love
I know
you.
these are all talked about, of course, you know. We look at the elementary, if you cut that right here, it's
Not at all. You do your thing. We had one of our
93%.
emergency service students right off the bat.
Then you look
Took off running
at high
outside,
school,
in the
it's
building,
like, yeah,
chasing out the playground.
how do we get our kids
So we
prepared
didn't
to
go
that
into
for that significant
we went into a
exposure?
hole,
But then
which is
we don't know what the
part of
exposure
I Love You
is.
Guys Foundation.
You know?
You stay in your rooms,
But we
live in
want it.
movement, continue teaching, continue doing your
We need to
things.
have it, yeah.
We'll just need
So I
you
think
to
that's our big disconnect here with that.
So, yeah, that's,
So how do you feel about your child's academic
So is
progress?
it just different terminology than what we
yeah,
did?
That's kind of
they
interesting
do,
too when I
but
was
we can
looking at
adapt
it.
it to our
It's got that curve to it.
whole process to solve.
This this was thinking. I know it's
What
there's
this
not a
program has,
well, I guess there's
though,
not a but it's like
Really an effective way of
I would have
managing
thought the pace would be a little higher.
it's a blend. So it's a blend of.
It says a lot about either they're not informed or they're somewhat informed or they're not at all informed. So 38, 42, like almost 50%.
It's a blended of Alice.
So disconnected.
Is it blended run, hide, fight too?
So it's like, yeah,
So
yeah.
it is.
And then how effective our West Clermont report cards provided you with timely points of information for your child's learning progress. see that kind of
That's
same
me doing
curve
it.
again. With
So,
it's a little.
this may be the one card. But basically,
You can shoot
it's,
whatever, just shoot it what you got.
yeah, it's basically, it's a blend. So it talks about the different, we got a shelter in place, we got a hold, we got a lockdown. We would go into the lockdown. We then transition into Alice, and we transition into the alert, lockdown, and encounter evacuate. But there's other stuff that goes forward.
When you look at ours,
I'd like to get his opinion on how he would do a large, that but the school should,
That's been kind of
thinking on.
And that's again, it's, again, try to stay in my lane, but it's important to think about this beforehand, because I'm telling you, we had a mess here that took place before the murders, trying to get just Amelia to the, right, it was a nightmare. Our reunification point got gridlocked because we told a bus driver, who then told the kids, who then texted to their parents. They should have heard live alone. That's how we do those things, and so nobody was able to own
I think that's a valid point of constantly.
and so what's going to happen is that
time to check
there will come a time
here. If teachers think about that.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's, again, Mr. Dorsey is phenomenal at doing his things, and he spearheads a lot of this stuff. Yeah, he's,
Prompt them to go look.
he's, but again, so like some of these things that you guys have done, so like the 3M, we've done something very similar. We did, and you might have done it similar here too. We used the CNE logo, and they put them in different places.
Yeah, to get people to push it.
Done that kind of stuff. I have to say, I have to chuckle. Previous administration made us chuckle a little bit because we did it before the merge took place.
That doesn't surprise me.
We took a tour of all these different buildings. We went to Princeton. We went to Dakota.
Yes, that's more than I thought.
We gave them all of these suggestions. Each of us, being Steve real quick, gave them all the suggestions. And on some of these things, I chuckled because it looked like he went, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And so, did just the opposite of what some of the suggestions that was basically. So, but with that being said, I understand it because you can say you ask for input. Didn't use it, but you asked for
Use
it.
this guy, use this guy, use this guy.
But yeah, I mean, so again, the sign instructing people to park, that's good. It's my understanding you guys have a,
You would see a sign. How would a sign? That's
I won't say misleading, but there's a check-in for visitors that come into our buildings, because it sounds to me like there's a lot of activity that moves in this building. So there's a lot of parents that are free raiding in the building, running to the nurse's office, doing things. But it's a badge system, I guess, that's a swipe or something.
Are you talking about parents or just visitors?
I guess both. So I guess there are parents that come into our building that go to the nurse's office.
We do have a problem here. Eric has brought that up, logistic problem. So if all the parents, their son is in the clinic, sick, then the way I understand it, you check in the office and then I can't go down.
Not take. You get up to my head. Yeah.
So I'm loose.
Call the university. Call somebody.
He was the parent can't go
I
down?
can't help you with that. That is not.
Yes, that is correct.
So essentially,
She's like, Dad. I'm like, no, you'll understand.
you think you know who you have.
And again, there's some sort of a swipe system. I don't know.
That was never what I did.
Visitor's badge.
All right, so what's underway? We've got our impact team. So we're complete this strength, opportunity, aspirations, and results. So
But it's not checking.
It's not doing it back. 3 or 4 impacts. It's not checking protection. It's not checking.
No, it's not doing it. It's not doing it back.
We can do it now. So we
Which is fine, which is
the impact
important as
team
well.
that I'm working on. Spearhead is the
But again, like in our building, after COVID, a lot of new things changed. The high school should be
workforce change is how do we change it? And I'm starting to lump so that we're just not getting
buzz in, you tell her what you want, and it's picking up a sick kid, or bring a sick kid to you.
that's what we did.
We are engaged in a variety of ways to have attack that.
There's never any parents walking down the hall.
I know this school year we're working on that.
So I think it's something we gotta look at.
Implements of science, PK-12.
I don't know if that's happening for sure.
Jobs, and I've heard that.
I heard it was too.
Tracy, be the one
Teams
that
will
can
audit their
answer.
middle school electives, so that going back to that electives to make sure.
Well, actually, I have a meeting tomorrow with Heidi, our district nurse, to talk about that in all of it. But this.
Because how many nurses do we have in this line? You may not know.
Well, there's a LPN,
Plenty of people that could go do something.
Yes.
That could go do something if needed.
So I want to start with Heidi because she is new and she is reorganized some of the things. So I want to say, is this in fact
I will tell you the stuff that I've seen. Great stars. The planners out front. That's great.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean,
And it's one of those things too that the average person it's a planner. This is nice.
yeah, there's a reason.
There's a reason behind it. There's a reason behind it, and it definitely helps.
The plants came back, they died, they came back. Go figure.
Resurrection, brother. Resurrection.
They almost died.
Gary
They
Davis.
came back and got
Gary
new.
Davis put sugar on him.
I don't know if they came back and got new.
We got off that.
Oh, you did, okay.
But we'll go back on it. We'll get back on it. I haven't, I didn't, here we go. But we're still on safety and security. This goes into mental health, which we already identified as
Some
one
of
of
the
the
things
top
that
things that
from
we
the
have.
survey was, parent
From our
education.
parents and our staff.
How do we help parents?
More support.
How do we help parents?
So when she asked us to report out, then basically
Restore elementary specialists and exploratory options. So
focusing
we're
on
still-
mental health.
We're still not.
And when you start to look at the safety,
We still, I think, we're looking at that.
the big question is the why. We do have people that are unsatisfied.
Yeah, why?
What can we do a deeper?
Advanced career-based learning.
Deeper dive into why?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah. What is it about our school that doesn't make
What's
it
happening
safe?
with
What is it?
electives is that they're not all.
And then the other piece is connecting with an adult.
We truly get back to where everybody has to do things. Yeah.
School counselors,
And
obviously, important
smaller class sizes.
services that we do have.
In our smaller district, we have each of the building has their own council. And we have one that kind of floats. They just hired a working council.
How many kids are
This year
counselor?
to bring those back.
And when I say counselor, I mean
More
mental
focus on
health
the STEM.
counselor,
Okay.
Not like,
And then middle
you know,
school
let me help you with your,
Yeah.
yeah, schedule, yeah, thank you. So like, yeah, they have, our school, the school found out that they were really wanting to make sure that their child focus and stuff, they just don't have it anymore, so they hired a
One of them is to be able to be informed consumers with their kids.
Sorry.
We know the school counselor
What do you think?
had the
The
ad.
parent can't respond to
We're attitude,
like anything about that.
middle school added.
You know, how
So,
they got the child
number of
success.
counselors.
A couple years ago,
Added.
I used to coach basketball girls, and there was a student that lived where I used to live. She moved to
Add.
she went to the Air Force. She graduated in Fort Lauderdale, and she is succeeding phenomenally in careers. She had never found somebody who said that, you know, her mom didn't really know about this guy. Somebody didn't know about so a lot of military situation. So now she's doing great on it.
And I think with safety and
So like
security,
that's
or something
to me, I look at that and that's a West Clermont
focused on.
and that is,
I think one of the things that
college or
here, but we do a lot of after action.
So looking at making sure that we continue to grow those pathways and give those options, opportunities for kids to understand and parents
The different
to understand
townships.
so they can help be
being
providers of
too much
facilities.
being in this district, you guys wanted to put that many people that pick up the rehab. So in the current school that I work at,
It's just making
the
sure
sheriff's
that
office,
what we teach
it's
and
the
how we
fire
provide
department.
is
That's it.
parents have access
We don't
to.
have any other hands in the pot. We don't have any other. We're here. We're dealing with Pierce, Union,
Yeah.
sheriff's
Yeah,
office.
that was a little disheartening that we had that many kids.
And so, and then to bring those three, Lance,
Do that.
Larry Lance.
Yeah.
In the beginning, he and I had this meeting, and I'm like, why do you meet with us individually?
Yeah, 14%
Why do you meet
completed
with
it.
him? But then I caught, why did I like 20? Because again, he's the mediator. It is this
If they didn't have an active email system,
And this one will say, no, we need to do this. And this police department says, we need more of this, and this, and that's. So he
that's one too.
saved himself headache.
In the registration system, and then I would meet with not 100% sure on this. I'd have to
And
double
I'm
check
assuming
why
you should
it
do the same. Or
Well,
doing the
we
same.
did, we actually got them all together. I think Mike brought them all together
You did?
a year ago.
You did?
And we were talking about Alice, and we were talking about getting everybody on the same page. Because we had different terminology, it's shelter in place, you know, this.
that's
So,
that's why
NFL
those
game,
all
it's shelter in place.
Oh,
You guys ready to do some sharing out? All right, well, I just want to remind everybody that these reports that the board is spending time on up here are available for everyone. You can get them on our website under our story, West Clermont Roadmap Reports. This is volume 4, and the whole intention is to be very transparent about our process, to let people know what we've been learning, what we've been doing, and what's next. And we've got a lot of decisions to make, and so that's why it's important that the board dig into the details and really understand what the voice of the people are saying. So I'm going to just open it up to give you guys, because you each took a different section of the book, to give you a few minutes to maybe talk about your aha moments or your key takeaways or things that you want us to be thinking about. Just kind of a general response in what you're seeing and hearing. Who wants to start?
We can start.
Thanks, Ryan.
We can start. So we talked about the safety schools, the safety in our schools. And so obviously there's several different, yeah, here it is, I'm sorry. Safety, security, and well-being and engagement is the section that we took. And so in there's a lot to go over in this section. Some of the things that we highlighted obviously was the different programs that we have to keep our schools safe. We were discussing on some of the things as to why some of the community members maybe what it is that they're looking for when we talk about safety in schools, and what is their thoughts if there is concerns. What are their concerns? And then obviously we talked a lot about the mental health piece of it. Again, as we continue to talk, mental health is definitely increasing in our communities, and making sure that we have resources for our community members.
Yeah, and that comes out very strongly in the data, that people are saying, yes, this is a challenge in our community, and yes, we want schools to do something about it. And so that's a heavy lift, and there's staffing involved, there's programming involved, and so that's why this conversation is front and center for us to say, okay, what is our role as a school? What is the role of the family? And how do we, complement each other in this work? Because we can't all take it on. We can't take everything on. So what matters most and what's going to make the biggest impact? Thank you. And another thing that I'll just point out, when you go into these books that we've created, we did it to kind of summarize and highlight some key findings. But you can click on the QR code and you can go to all the data. You see all the graphs, all the charts. You see it broken down by parents, by community members, by staff. And you see how sometimes staff in the community are off because we have a different lived experience as the staff compared to what a family experience is. So you see some of those differences, and you can really dig into the data yourself. It's out there for everybody to take a look at.
I did ramble just a little bit, but one thing I do wanted to point out that it looks like with some of these charts that majority of our community members do believe our schools are safe. The numbers are definitely there. People do believe that our schools are safe. So I definitely want to highlight
Yes, we did get some strong affirmation, just like we did through the CAC process. People feel good about that. And one of our key strategies that we're using this year that we know will help us kind of get over the hump, because we have still about, 15-20% that we still need to target. And that is that we know every student's name, every student's story, their strengths and their need. I think building those relationships with each kid and helping them feel, find their strengths, find what value they bring, is going to be a difference maker. And we are not going to be casual about it. We're being very intentional. So, all right, Michael.
We discussed student pathways and performance, career exploration, preparation, the academic progress and support, and we mainly discussed the REACT survey results. And the shocking thing was, out of all of our students, under 700 people reacted to this, or got the email for this. Only 450 reacted to it, so it's pretty low.
They're statistically good, but we would like more engagement. So we always want more, but statistically it does give us kind of a broad view. But you're right, we would love for more people to get involved.
So, click that. What is it called?
The QR code?
The QR code.
Yes.
So one of the aha moments for me was how, when we were asking how effective and how satisfied parents were with where we were at, we had a ton of not sures and don't knows, which I feel like the information is just it's not getting through a wall somewhere. The questions on how important things were for their students they were all very good, and they all wanted the things that we can offer, exposure to different career options and information about their paths and whatnot. They wanted, that was extremely important to our parents, but they were unsure of what we had to offer. So I think breaking that barrier and trying to get more information to the parents somehow, we were discussing how it's probably not going to get to them through the students. I know that for a fact. So that was our big topic of discussion, was how can we further reach the parents and get this information to them.
You'll see in the things we need to consider in the future, one of those bullets is parent communication, because we know everyone's very busy. I talked to several parents tonight that were here for the tours that are like, this is my last year where all my kids are in one building, and forever we'll be in 3 different places. And how challenging that is to keep up with all the communication. We relate to it as parents ourselves, balancing work and life and family and trying to keep up with what's going on at the school. That's why one of the strategies we're using this year is more video in our communication to try to cut to the chase and say things as quickly as possible. But something like this is daunting to go over. But as I said, our goal is to put it out there for everybody to see and to notice those things. Like, okay, we have some gaps in communication or understanding. How do we close those gaps? We are so grateful for the people that came here tonight for the tour, because you're able to answer questions on the spot and get connected with our community and know what's on their mind. So we're going to keep having opportunities. We hope people keep taking advantage. All right, Tammy, you want to take your turn?
I'm the spokesperson for our group. So a lot of the data that we reviewed was affirming a lot of the work that we're already doing, both in terms of areas that we're currently exploring. So educational models, for example, really saying that we've made progress. It's not fully systemic, but that we're on the right track. And that as it relates to looking at ways to promote, looking for programming and educational models that promote relationship development, deepened learning experiences, and those durable skills in our Portrait of a Graduate, it was almost 100% that those really were the areas that parents wanted to see us continue to develop. So that it felt good that we were on the right track, even though we're not fully there. And then it kind of gave us some specific areas that might be helpful for us to explore as we look at more specialized programming, whether it's robotics and STEM, continuing with career-based learning, early college programming, those sorts of things. So we felt very much like we're on the right track, and that this information kind of just continues to help us steer a little bit more specifically.
Every single survey that we gave out had a portion of it devoted to Portrait of a Graduate. So Dan has the slides up here. Just want to point out a few big key takeaways that we have from these questions. First, we found that our families are not as familiar with Portrait of a Graduate as we maybe thought they would or should be. And so we've got to do a really good job at continuing to communicate what it's all about, what our vision is, what these experiences are all about. But once you start asking questions about it and get specific about, is this appealing to you, is this important to you, the words that we've chosen, because the community helped us create these, are very, very important, extremely important. So resilience and adaptability came in at 84%, extremely important. Character and integrity, communication, collaboration, academic and life skills, innovative and creative thinking. People are giving very high marks for these, and so you're seeing that across our staff, our students, as well as our families. So we know that this is the graduate we want to see walk across that stage. We want these experiences to be had by all of our students. And this is the part that kind of gives us a sense of like where we are at this moment in time. When you look at the charts on the right, you see the GPA. We ask people to give us
Like, how are we doing in ensuring that kids have these experiences and have these mindsets, skill sets, and tools as they matriculate through the system? And you'll see that from the family, we got like a C. We're kind of we're average, we're kind of in the middle. Our staff scored us a little bit higher. It's probably because they have a little more knowledge about the things that we are doing, but this gives us a good point of reference to know where we are and why we need to continue to focus on this, to continue to make sure this is not just something that happens for some kids, it happens for all kids. Tonight we got a great example from the middle school of our gifted program with Mrs. Ford. I mean, she clearly is pulling out these skills and techniques in her teaching that's opening up all these opportunities for our kids, and we just want that for every single student. Well, I thank you very much for just taking some time to dig into the data. I encourage you to, do that at home too. Look at the QR code, dig into the information, because I really think it will help us shape our next steps. As you know, we're all working in impact teams led by various cabinet members that look at the data and will, over time, bring back recommendations to you. We'll be working with the CAC, which I know Mr. Patton is a part of, and Mr. Rudy, and then we'll be bringing recommendations to you by the spring. So this is an ongoing conversation. And what I'm going to ask Mr. Romano to do now is to play the video. We have a 4-minute video that we played at the beginning of our tours this evening that hits the highlights of the facilities. As he's pulling that up, this is just a commercial and a reminder that we want to engage with our community. Every month, we're going to be touring a new elementary or high school or middle school, or I guess we'll have middle school, but we'll be touring another school in our system and offering times to come in and just see our spaces, see what learning is looking like in our buildings. And then starting in October, we will start facility town halls, where we're talking about what is going to be the master plan for West Clermont. What are we going to do about our challenging facilities? How do we continue to invest in our state-of-the-art facilities so we can continue to grow and offer opportunities for kids? So that is all coming up. We have our first town hall at Clough Pike on September 28th at 6 o'clock. And then in October, we'll be back for a tour of Merwin. So see this little video to give you just a taste of our facilities.
I think our biggest challenge right now is just our influx of kiddos. I think we're growing at a really good rate, but I believe that we're kind of running out of space. So I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, is being creative with class sizes and rooms in the building and how we utilize our spaces.
At Merwin, we have modulars, so we do not have enough space. We have 6 classrooms that are outside. We are busting at the seams. We have to split our cafeteria because our cafeteria and gym are together. So we have rooms and the stage where kids are eating lunch. We don't have room to do much. We're kind of falling all over each other here at Merwin. Merwin was built in 1966, and we're starting to show our age. So no matter how, we have a great custodial staff here that works hard to keep our building cleaned, but bugs and critters get in here because there are cracks in the foundation, and that is of no fault of Mr. Troy and our custodial staff. So it's just things where it's wear and tear.
I think their biggest challenge is probably just the growth of students that we have coming. And looking at the data going to the town halls, it looks like we are just exploding. And as the years go on, we're going to have more and more students to fit in our buildings. We're going to need more buildings, bigger spaces, and as well as just the education in general. The ways of education are very, very quickly changing. The needs of students, the way that students learn, the way that we are teaching them, everything is changing very, very quickly. It's not the same as it used to be.
I mean, it's hard, because they're like, oh, Clough just got a remodel, and we got this big, beautiful high school, and we got this, and we got that. And make everybody aware of like, listen, it looks like we have all of these things, but we are lacking in so many areas. We need more opportunities for these kids to reach their fullest potential. And I think it's sad that we have kids in our district that are leaving to go to other places because they have more opportunities.
I do think that there are some limitations in our building. It was refurbished for us, but we would like to see like better communal learning spaces, maybe some spaces for some flexible learning that we can combine classrooms together. Furniture is a huge issue, it's falling apart, and it makes it hard to kind of incorporate the kind of activities that we want to do with kids. It's just things like setting the environment for kids too, making spaces where kids want to come into the classroom and are excited about what they see, having, like I said, the flexibility for different seating arrangements and inviting different kinds of learning experiences for kids.
So, do you guys have any questions for me? I don't have any more comments this evening. Any questions? No? Okay, well then with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Romano.
So I just wanted to continue updating the board, community, staff about what's going on with our revenue situation. As we know, as I did in August, told you a little bit about our fair school funding formula. And when people ask me, what are we getting from the state? And I can tell them that I know what minimally we're going to get, at least what we're guaranteed to get. But it's still up in the air as far as what we're actually going to get, and we'll know better in October. Two things occur, though, two estimates occur for us. One was when the state legislature passed House Bill 33, and they let us know what funding we were going to get. There is a group called Ohio Legislative Services, which does an estimate. They did that estimate for each school district, but their real intent was to tell the legislators what the total impact was for the budget, for the bill that they were passing. It wasn't as much for each individual school district. So, that was done back in March. It was updated again in June when the legislature took action and the governor signed the bill. And just a week ago, the Department of Education came out and gave a new simulation or a new estimate for school districts. Keeping in mind, though, that that real estimate or the real calculation was not going to be done until October. But because all this information is public, because it is out there, I just believe that it makes sense to add some clarity on what this new number means and what it is to do it. So we're going to review that real quickly, and then we'll talk about from there, where do we go? So the funding formula that was passed actually 2 years ago was called the Fair School Funding Formula. The first 2 years of that formula under the last biennium budget, we were guaranteed revenue or state funding that we received in 2019, okay? With this current biennium, we're guaranteed what we received in 2022. So when you go back and think about that, it's really 2019 because we were under a guarantee. Okay, what does that mean? It means that the state's not going to give us anything less than we got in 2019 as far as state funding with it. With this updated simulation, and actually even with the simulation that Ohio Legislative Services performed, it was indicating that we were going to get an increase, which meant we would be off the formula. Okay, so I just want to review that quickly. So for FY24, for this current fiscal year, okay, we are anticipating that we would get about $1,350,000 as an increase from the state. Okay, now I say anticipating because we're not going to get that real calculation until October. Okay, and there's some variables that will impact that. But some notes with that. The projections are based on data from FY23 payment with the OLS, the Ohio Legislative Service projection. They used the data that was in January. The State Department of Education used more current data for that. The second component was the valuation and income data, and why that's important. So that's the local valuation and income data, the local property tax valuation, and the residential adjusted gross income. That has been updated. They are using in the current simulation what the Department of Taxation certifies to the Department of Education. Okay, that's a new input that wasn't there before. The FY25 payments, they really are based, so that's not this current year, but the fiscal year beginning July 1 of 24, okay, the 24-25 year. So that information really only has limited data in it. And the reason why is this. The actual data that the Department of Taxation has lags the fiscal years. So the data that is in the FY24 for property taxes is really the calendar year 22 property values. Okay, so it's almost 18 months behind with it. Okay, because that's all that they have certified. So think about it. We are going through this county is going through in calendar 23. We are going through a triennial reappraisal, which means that the county auditor is reappraising the property values, submitting that to the Department of Taxation, and between the county auditor and the Department of Taxation, they'll go back and forth to really set a figure of what that increase will be. That increase impacts the level of funding that the state provides us. It's a simple rule of thumb within the formula. The wealthier the local district, okay, which is measured by property values and measured by average income, okay, offsets what the state gives us. Okay, so if our property values go up, the state then says, well, we'll give you less. If the property valuation or the adjusted gross income goes down, then the state would give us more. That's relative, across 611 districts throughout this state. Okay, that may sound simple, but it's very complex as you calculate that throughout the state. The other information that is in there is the enrolled ADM, or average daily membership. It really looks at the it remains unchanged for this current year, FY24. It's based on what we had in fiscal 23 or last school year. Okay, so those elements were updated. I don't mean to be confusing, but I want to just show you some elements that are in there with that calculation. There is a base cost, and here's how I want to just show you how things have changed. In fiscal year 23, so last fiscal year, the base funding from the state, okay, the foundational base, we received $18,870,000. The new simulation is projecting $20,544,000 for this current year. It's anticipated because the valuations, the property valuations, will then be certified in FY25, so they'll include the 23 new valuations. So that projection means that it's going down, because we'll have higher valuations. They do a 3-year averaging, so it's going to be going down. Okay, that's the projection. There's targeted assistance. That item is going up for us across both fiscal years. The special education funding is increasing. Be honest with you, I scratch my head as to why it's going down in FY25. Our special education numbers for that population, that enrollment has been increasing. So again, I can't verify anything until I see the detail, but that's a confusing point to me. Our disadvantaged pupil impacted aid is going up in both years. The English learners is going up, and then again that's going down in 25. Again, I have no answer as to why, because it's mainly driven off of enrollment. Our gifted numbers appear to be decreasing, and that's the dollar amount. That's not necessarily the enrollment. So again, until I see the detail, I'm not too sure what that means. The total foundation funding from 23 to FY24 to this current fiscal year increased from $23,721,000 to just under $26 million, okay? And then in FY25, it is pegged to decrease to 24.8, okay? All honesty, again, until I see the detail, I don't have all the explanation for you, okay? It's in the devil's in the detail for this. Here's where we see, why there's not as much increase as we believe there to be. In fiscal year 24, we were under what's called the guarantee, which means that we're not going to receive less than we did in basically 2019. There were 3 types of guarantees in the Fair School Funding Formula. A temporary transitional aid guarantee. That temporary transitional is based off of the percentages where the state is going to fully fund that formula. It is not fully funding it, okay? So that's a transitional aid guarantee. There's a supplemental targeted assistance guarantee. So for both of those, we did not receive anything. What we did receive was a formula transition supplement. Again, simple math on that one is, what did we receive in 2019? What's the difference to today on the formula? And at that time, in last fiscal year, we were into the guarantee by $1.6 million, okay, with that. Bottom line, if we go down to total state support that is today being projected, looks like we will go up 4.7%, or $1,347,000, almost $1,350,000, okay? The other data that I showed, and this is where some of my, and I'm not going to say disbelief, but where we go back and scratch our heads, and believe me, there's a patch here that is bald back there, and it's from scratching my head on things. And so for our foundation funding, we increased almost $2.3 million, okay? Keep in mind, okay, we were in the hole 1.6 million. So the change from one year to the next, okay, was almost $3.8 million. Okay, that is a significant change. Okay, because the guarantee offset some of that $3 million. Okay, we went up 2.27. We went down in the formula transition supplement. So as of today, it's expected that we will increase in that state funding by nearly $1.35 million to do that, okay? Keep in mind, these notes, because I'm going to come back to us in October, because that number will change. The enrollment numbers for 24 will be put in there. The valuation should not change, because that is taken 22. But the note that the State Department of Education gives us is this, okay? The legislative services simulations released in July, actually from March to June to July, were really for the total amount that the state was approving in the budget. It wasn't necessarily each individual school district, but they published each individual school district. They note that it's important that we understand and know that the projections are not guarantees of what the district's going to get. Okay? So I'm giving you the update because this is all public information, and someone's going to say, hey, geez, you're getting an increase. As of today, yes, we are. Okay? Don't deny that. That's what they're projecting. Okay? The purpose of this update from the Department of Education is to just help districts, superintendents, treasurers, administrative teams, boards of education to get a little bit closer and better handle on what we are going to be getting. Because when we get that number in October, that's going to be rolling right into our 5-year forecast, whatever it is, okay? And the last bullet point there, I think, is their bottom line disqualifier. Changes between estimates and actual aid, what they actually give us, may be significant, especially for individual school districts. So when I read a line like that, what they're just telling us is be cautious, because we're not too sure what you're getting until we get all the inputs into the formula, okay, to do that. Kudos to the Department of Education, because it is not a simple formula. It is a complicated one. And since the bill passed actually June 30th, okay, so historically for the Department of Ed to give us those numbers by October is not a small feat. That's a lot of work for them to get that to us. So sometimes in prior years, we didn't even see those till January or February, so 6 or 7 months after the fact. So for them to do that in 3 or 4 months is pretty significant and pretty service-oriented to school districts. So what's coming up, in the next couple months? In 2 weeks, we'll do our annual appropriation measure. And again, I'm just reviewing what we said at the last board meeting. That appropriation measure is really setting how we're spending funds for this year. It also kind of puts a stake in the ground of what we're looking for in the next couple of years, okay? That spending plan on a multi-year basis is pretty important. We are looking for the actual numbers on the triennial update. That could come any day, but we know that there's a statutory deadline that we will get that in October at the latest, okay? So that is coming. In October, we will have what I just talked about, the updated state funding. That number will be pretty secure. It may change throughout the year, but not by much with it. And then in November, we have one board meeting in November, and at that board meeting, we'll update the 5-year forecast, looking not just at FY24, this current fiscal year, but an additional 4 years out. That additional 4 years is really going to be based off of the revenue, state and local, that we project. But on the expenditure side, a spending plan that really follows, okay, the strategic plan or the plan, academic plan, the operational plan, the maintenance plan that we have. So all those different elements that go into a budget, it's really going to be looking 5 years out, okay? So it is a projection, but we're trying to get a little bit better of making that a spending plan, not just a projection as we go forward, okay? Questions on any of that? And I know I went through the state funding kind of fast. Sad to say, I wanted to tell you that because those numbers are out there, okay? For me to tell you for sure we're getting it, I can't. But I think it's close for this year to do that. And pretty much my comments for the evening. But if after this meeting there's other questions on this, feel free to give us a call. Okay.
All right. Board comments. Brian.
I will not be as brief as her, but I'll be as brief. I do appreciate all the families that showed up today to take the tour of the building. That was nice, and I appreciate the fact that they were able to come out and to see our buildings, the good and the bad. So I definitely appreciate that. Again, let's not forget 9/11. That was definitely something we can't forget. And and our students led session. They did a great job getting up there speaking. I don't know if I could stand in front of an audience in the 6th grade and give a presentation like that. So that was really good, and I appreciate the fact that they came out. So, yes.
I can't do it now, so.
It has taken practice.
Yeah, I was really impressed by how many families showed up. I love how we have a superintendent and a staff who care so much to put things together like these walkthroughs and our town halls to meet the community where they are, to show them our blessings, but also show them our needs. So I think that's very important, and we're doing a great job with it. So I'm really impressed with our staff as well to continue to audible when things just keep getting thrown in the way, which seems to be hourly at this point. So our team by the river could learn a thing or two. That being said, Who Day?
Bengals reference.
I think we have need to go into executive session. All right. For the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or student, to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, to consider matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes, to consider confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal finance statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance. I'll put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Ramon?
Mr. Chubley?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
3 yes.
We will not be returning afterwards.
Our next meeting is September 25th.
Our next meeting is September 25th at Pacific Center.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a connected safety grant. She said 27 hours, so we could use half.